More breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. Pittsburgh Steelers TJ Watt has agreed to a 4-year extension worth a reported $112 million. That's an average value of just over $28 million per year, $80 million guaranteed at signing. That's per the NFL Network. The reigning AFC Defensive Player of the Year has been named to the All-Pro First Team in each of the past 2 seasons. He also recorded at least 13 sacks in each of the past 3 seasons. As you take a look at the deal, $28 million as average annual value makes him the highest paid defensive player in the National Football League once the deal is done. And we now welcome back Will Brinson, John Breach, and we add Emery Hunt to the mix. He joins us from the Caesars Sportsbook Wild Wild West in Atlantic City. Okay, so you saw the breaking news there in the deal. Emery, I'm going to come to you first here. Obviously, the words of Cam Hayward and Ben Roethlisberger having some influence with the Steelers as now TJ Watt gets his deal done. What's your reaction to the deal and the value of it?
You know, it's a great deal. We don't normally see Pittsburgh Steelers defensive players leave Pittsburgh. And when you talk about $80 million guaranteed, you can get me to stay in Pascagoula, Mississippi for $80 million guaranteed. I'm not going anywhere. But when you think about they paid Tuitt, they paid Hayward, and now they're paying Watt. The Steelers understand that in order for us to continue to have that sustained success, especially under Mike Tomlin, who's never had a losing season, you have to keep your best players in. And a lot of their players are on the defense side of the football. They pay their defensive linemen and defensive players. You don't see them leave with contract issues out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but I just had Inception, by the way. I saw our old pal Shane Bacon over Emery's shoulder there at the Caesars Sportsbook. It freaked me out. Look, the TJ Watt deal is really interesting because you did hear those veteran Pittsburgh Steelers players come out and say, give the man his money. And Pittsburgh traditionally does not do a ton of guaranteed money past the first year of these contracts for non-quarterbacks. And unless TJ Watt is getting $80 million guaranteed in the first year, which seems unlikely, that means it's probably pushed out a little bit further. And it makes tons of sense. This defense needs TJ Watt out there. He is one of the best pass rushers in the entire NFL. He arguably, he's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate year in and year out. There's no reason to think that he won't end up earning the value of this deal. And I think too, once we've seen these contracts sort of boost up, right? Like Myles Garrett goes to 25, Joey Bosa goes to 27 per year, and now TJ Watt to 28. All of a sudden, that Aaron Donald contract, which is a monster, looks like kind of a steal. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see these edge rushers climb the charts and jump each other as these younger guys come out, Chase Young, et cetera, Nick Bosa. They're so important to NFL teams that this will look like a good deal in 2 years.
Yeah, and, I'm not surprised to see this deal get done. I'm not surprised to see TJ Watt now the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. The only thing I'm surprised by is that the Steelers let it drag out this long. This is one of the best defensive players in the NFL. If your last name is Watt and you're a defensive player, just give him a blank check. If TJ Watt would have missed the opener against the Bills because they didn't get this contract figured out, that is, you fire everyone. But fortunately, the Steelers don't have to do that because they got this deal done. And as Brinson said, the Steelers are famous for being stubborn about their guaranteed money. They usually don't like to guarantee anything after the first year of the contract. I think the only player they've really done that for is Ben Roethlisberger. So to have Ben Roethlisberger come out yesterday and say, guys, just pay the guy. Don't outthink yourself here. Don't do anything dumb. Don't make TJ Watt unhappy. Get this deal done. And so it didn't take long before everybody was on the same page and they got this contract done. And so I think the interesting thing here is that now it's only a matter of time before we see a defensive player crack the $30 million a year mark, which used to be only for quarterback.
When you look at the influence of Roethlisberger and Cam Hayward coming out, Will, how much do you think that had to do with the fact that the deal got done so quickly? Because we're approaching week 1 thinking that this deal was probably not going to get done and TJ Watt was not going to be there when they played their week 1 game. But then you have the players come out and say, yeah, he needs to get paid. How much of an influence do you think that was in terms of getting this deal done so quickly?
I think it had a little push over the finish line. And, look, Ben Roethlisberger and Cam Hayward are long-time veterans of this franchise. And really, probably the two most important people just in terms of voices that are heard from coming out of the Pittsburgh locker room. So I do think it helped push it over the line. You wouldn't expect them to come out and prop up a young player like that and say, give him his money, but they did that, and it certainly probably conveyed to the Rooney family, hey, all right, look, let's go down to Kevin Colbert's office and say, you know what, we agree with the usual approach, but this is a special player, and we have a season here, probably Big Ben's last season in Pittsburgh. Let's not mess it up by refusing to give TJ Watt a couple $1 million.
Emery, when you look at their win total for the season, it's 8.5 is what the win total is set at. Obviously, having TJ Watt is going to help that. In terms of that win total, where do you fall now that Watt's under contract?
As long as Mike Tomlin is still the head coach, you have to go over that number. We haven't seen him have a losing season in 14 years. So to me, that 8.5 number says that Vegas expects them to have a losing season, which has never happened under Tomlin. So definitely smash that over number with Pittsburgh going over that win total.
John,
yeah,
you agree with
and
that?
you know what? I'm even going to one up Emery. I don't just love the over here. I like the Steelers to win the entire division. I feel like everyone is sleeping on this team. The Browns are the hot newcomer. The Ravens are that consistent team that's always there. And the Steelers, it seems like a lot of people are pegging them for third place this season. But look, we saw them start 11-0 last year. Yes, they completely faded down the stretch. They have a new offensive coordinator. Ben Roethlisberger looks rejuvenated. Dare I say he looks like he's in shape. Everyone on this team looks motivated. They just got their best defensive player under contract. I like the over and the Steelers to win this division.
Yeah, I am not bullish on the Steelers this year at all, but I am not taking the under of 8.5, especially after Reach points out the Ravens. I mean, we just did an entire segment on half the team dropping like flies from torn ACLs. I mean, that's a big concern. So I think I would go over 8.5. And let's not forget, too, when we think about 8.5 wins, we're thinking, all right, 500. It's a 17-game season. You go 9-8. That's not a great season, and still get the over on there. And Mike Tomlin is just is too consistent, too good of a leader in that locker room, and too motivational to let this team, I think, finish 8-9 or worse. I don't know that I love Breach's semi-bold win the division call, but stranger things have happened at 4-1. It's not a terrible price.
In terms of Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt second in the odds at plus 650 behind Aaron Donald, who is, of course, the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year, tied with Myles Garrett, as it turns out. Emery, what do you think about Watt and his chances of being Defensive Player of the Year? You like the value there?
There's some good value there, but I also think the value lies with Myles Garrett. We have to remember, before he got stricken with COVID last year, he was steamrolling toward that Defensive Player of the Year award himself. So I expect him to pick up right where he left off from that aspect. And then you add the bonus of bringing in a Jadeveon Clowney, taking more pressure away from him in terms of line slides and double teams. Garrett should get close to that 20 sack number this year, and I think he's going to win that Defensive Player of the Year award. But yes, there's value on Watt, but I think Garrett is probably more along the lines of a good bet for him to win that Defensive Player of the Year award.
Yeah, look, all three of those favorites deserve to be up there, no doubt about it. And there's a really good chance that Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, or TJ Watt ends up winning the Defensive Player of the Year award. I mean, those guys can have monster seasons. I love Garrett this year. I agree with everything Emery said. If I'm dipping my toe in the futures market, though, I'm going to need at least a two-digit. I'm going to need at least 10-1 or greater, and probably would prefer 12-1. I think Chase Young is a really appealing option. He could, look at the stats that he actually could have produced last year. His sack numbers were kind of low, but his pressures were way up there, and disruption is production, and those sacks can kind of be funny about how they pop up, and you have a guy throw it away right before you're about to take him down, et cetera. A whole different reasons why sacks, it might be a misleading number, your sack total. So Young at 16-1 is really enticing to me, but obviously would not be surprised if any one of those top three guys ended up taking home this hardware.
Yeah, I love the value on TJ Watt right here. I actually thought he should have been the Defensive Player of the Year last season. I thought he had a slightly better year than Aaron Donald. It feels like some people just write down Aaron Donald in week one and assume that he's going to be the best defensive player in the NFL because that's what he's been for so long. But you know what? TJ Watt is going to be motivated. He got snubbed last year. He just got his new contract. And everyone, again, is sleeping on the Steelers. So it's one of those things where you want to come out and you want to terrorize opposing offenses. I think Emery and Will both made good points. Myles Garrett would be a great pick there. The value on Chase Young, a little afraid of the Bosa brothers just because of the injury history there. But of those guys we showed, I love TJ Watt at plus 650.
All right, so TJ Watt signing his extension or getting ready to sign an extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a reported $112 million over 4 years, making him the highest paid defensive player in the National Football League. All right.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.